welcome back to another video. This is gonna be a kind of catch up on books that I've been reading because I have not done any wrap-ups recently just due to my life. I've shared with you before that I lost my mom in the beginning of August, and so I read one book. I only read 3 books in July, 1 book in August, and then I read 5. I've read 5 so far in September, so that's been good. So the first book that I read in July was a romance. It was so good. It was called When in Rome by Sarah Adams, and I have to thank Aramis for this because she had been just raving about Sarah Adams' books and When in Rome in particular, and so I was like, all right. So I read it on my Kindle, and I read it so fast. It was so good. It was a grumpy sunshine pop star. She's a music artist and just wants to get away from the crazy life. So she goes on. She's also obsessed with Audrey Hepburn. What's that movie called? Oh, When in Rome. No, Roman Holiday. Roman Holiday. It's like, that sounds right. And so she looks up the nearest Rome, since she can't go to Italy, and that is Rome, Kentucky. So she drives Rome, Kentucky, and just tries to get away, but her car breaks down in front of this guy's house, and he's kind of grumpy. He's a local pie bakery shop owner, and is like, yeah, you can't stay here. But she has to stay for a couple days while her car gets fixed, and, you know, it's just romance and grumpy sunshine. And you guys know, well, maybe not, I hate the miscommunication trope, and this one didn't have it. I was so happy. So, highly recommend this book. It was really good. It was a closed, it wasn't fully, it was pretty closed doors. Fade to black for the romance aspect, but they still had that kind of like sexual tension and chemistry, and I really loved it. After that, I quickly read Lore Olympus Volume 4. If you've been following my channel, I've been reading it since a little over a year, like almost 2 years. Love this series, love the graphic novel versions, so gorgeous. Hades and Persephone's retelling, but in like a modern kind of lifestyle. Like, they party, they have phones, they have social media. It does have a lot of trigger warnings, so check those out, but it's really good. I really love them. So the third book that I read in July was A Light in the Flame by Jennifer Armentrout. This is the second book in the, what is this series called? The Fire and Flesh and Fire series. This is the prequel to the From Blood and Ash series. This one is about the gods and the primals, and it's kind of nice to read. Hi, did you find a cord? Let's maybe not play with that. It's kind of nice to read before or like with the From Blood and Ash because it gives a lot of history and a lot of background information on those. So this follows the primal Nyktos and his consort Seraphina, or Seraphima. I don't know how you say it. This one, I have to say, I was really disappointed in. Nothing happened. Like, the first maybe 75%, nothing happened, and it seemed like it was just smut, and I was like, I'm okay with that if there's plot. There was no plot. It was really boring. Nothing was happening, and then finally the ending was really good. But I don't want to read 400 pages of nothing for 100 pages of something. So, a little disappointed in that one, because the first one, A Shadow in the Ember, was really good. So then immediately after that book, I read A Soul of Ash and Blood, which is the 5th book in the From Blood and Ash series. And this was good. I did enjoy it. I didn't realize, I thought this was like book 4.5 or like book 1.5, because I had thought that this was just a complete retelling of the first book, but from Hawke's point of view, who's the main guy in there. This wasn't that. This was a progression from book 4 so the main character Poppy is kind of in some deep sleep, and someone's trying to wake, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to say this without spoiling it. It is a retelling of the first book from the male's point of view, but it's in line with, like, it's still after the 5th book. So he's just retelling the story to her. I don't really know how to make that not spoilery. Okay. Well, after that, in August, I had gotten a couple of books sent to me by authors. And so the first book that I read was Linden Falls by Joshua Hershey. I feel like this could have been a really cool book. I just felt the writing fell a little bit flat. This is like a Christian fantasy, and it's about this young girl who is 17, and she comes across this book that allows her to travel to kind of like the spirit world, and there she encounters angels and demons, and this main demon named Lavian is kind of coming after her because he wants the book, and he wants to be able to control everybody with his darkness, and her city is currently under that darkness, and so she's trying to kind of break that curse, that darkness binding her people, and so she has to fight him. And so then she comes across people along the way. She meets this woman named Eva, and she kind of helps her understand stuff. She learns stuff about her background and makes some friends along the way. That way she can save her people. It really had promise to it, but the characters, I felt like, didn't have much depth to them, and I felt it was very surface level, so I didn't truly feel and understand and know the characters. And when I was reading Mabel, my brain just kept imagining her as an 11-year-old girl, and I kept forgetting that she was 17. There was also a lot of world building, but like, it wasn't world building, it was like world, and I didn't understand a lot of it because we didn't build up to it, and we didn't learn histories and stuff. It was just kind of thrown in there like we already knew that, and I felt like I couldn't read it. Like I couldn't understand very well. Like I was confused. And you're also immediately thrown into action with a lot of that world and a lot of the magic and other things, and I just did not. It was hard to follow along at first. But I definitely think this could be something really cool. So the other book that I was sent by an author was Tribe of the Accord by Sean Stone. And this was really interesting. This was a prehistoric, I kept calling it a prehistoric fantasy, but it's not a fantasy. It's a prehistoric fiction because there was no magic in it. So it's just prehistoric. And, I should say both of these books were YA, like young adult. So meant for kids 12 to 18. I really enjoyed this book. This is, this follows a girl named Adira, but I don't know how old she was. It didn't ever explicitly say. And she and her father live alone, surviving in the wilderness. And one day he is captured by this kind of evil Ursa clan. And so then she's kind of on the run from them because they're also trying to come after her. And so she's running and trying to escape, surviving the wilderness on her own. Along the way, she meets some people and kind of meets a tribe. She's been tribeless her whole life, but has always wanted to join a tribe. And she wants to kind of team up and be able to go after this Ursa clan and free her father. I really enjoyed this book. I loved the characters. I loved the world. I loved the character development. And I loved the ending. The ending of this book made me really hope that he's writing a second, because it kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger. And I'm not 100%, I'm happy with how it ended, but like, I need more closure. So I'm really hoping that he's writing a second, because I would like to read it and see what happens. This was really fun. I think like the way some of the men talked was funny because, like, they talked like a caveman, like you would think of a caveman. And then other people talk kind of normally and with a little better diction and grammar. It was funny though. I really liked it. I liked the found family. I liked the, like, very, very underlining romance. Like, I wouldn't even call it romance. I would call it like a crush. Like a developing crush friendship. I don't know. I really liked it. I liked the friend. I liked the survivalness. It was really cool. And I also liked, so each chapter just had some, like, fun little graphic on it. You can see them all in the back here. But I super enjoyed this. So, yeah. Thanks to both Josh Hershey and Sean Stone for sending me those books. They were fun reads. Another book that I've been reading for months and months and months that I finally finished was Heartless by Marissa Meyer. And this is a villain origin story. And I freaking loved it. I've always been a huge fan of Alice in Wonderland ever since I was a little girl. Always have loved it. I've loved it so much. And this is kind of an Alice in Wonderland story. So, or it's a Wonderland story, I should say. It follows a main character named Kath, and she loves to bake. Wants to open a bake store eventually, but she can't really because she's the son of a Marquess. I think that's how you say it, a Marquess. And her parents are hoping that she marries the king. She does not want to. The king's kind of a fool. She wants nothing more than to just open a bake shop. So the king gets a new joker, a jester. His name is Jest. And Kath kind of gets this fascination with him. And eventually a romance buds. But it is a great story. I loved it. I didn't realize it was a villain origin story until the very end. Or, like, once I was getting to the end. Once I realized it, I was like, I freaking love this. Because at first I thought it was just like a Wonderland story. But just seeing how things, like the background story of who Kath is, like, I just loved it. And you see a bunch of familiar characters like the Cheshire Cat, the White Rabbit, Marianne, the King, all the, like, hearts, the cards, the Knave. I feel like I'm missing someone big. The Mad Hatter. And the March Hare. So, like, they're just all in there and you just love it. And then Peter Pumpkin Eater is also in there, which is kind of funny. Oh, boom. But it was a really, really good story. The Jabberwocky's in it. Like, if you love that world, I highly recommend this book. It's a YA, clean, just so good. I really loved it. That was the first Marissa Meyer book that I've read. And it does make me want to read more. The last two books were nonfiction. I know. Shocker, right? The first one was Counting the Cost by Jill Duggar Dillard. This was good. This was her experience growing up in the Duggar household. Hold please. Growing up under her father's kind of authority and growing up on national television for most of your life with camera crews and everything, and never even knowing, like, what's shown on TV. And then she kind of talks into, okay, this camera has been moved 30 times because of this child. You're being goofy. Talks about contracts and money, and it is, oh bless you, it is a little bit of a tell-all. It does talk a lot, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I could not imagine. And it was a very quick read. It's very short, less than 300 pages, and it's just so good. Like, I kind of grew up, my sister and I used to watch the Duggars all the time and have followed along with them. I followed Jill, I followed Jessa, I followed Ginger, I followed Joanna, I follow Gianna on Instagram, and so I've been waiting for this book. And then the last book that I read was Ginger's book called Becoming Free Indeed, My Journey of Disentangling Faith from Fear. So this was more of her change from being a part of the IBLP, which is the Institute of Basic Life Principles, and just kind of understanding what Christianity is truly like. And so it is her kind of, I liked the word disentangle versus deconstruct of her religious beliefs, and kind of learning what she truly believes, and how it's not, how the IBLP is not really scriptural, and how it's very contradictory, and kind of just living her life based on scripture and interpretation for that. And I found it very relatable, and I really enjoyed it. I listened to this one on audiobook, and she narrated it, and I just thought it was really, really great. She did a great job. Anyway, I'd also seen the documentary Shiny Happy People earlier this year, and that was also really well. Those are all the books that I've read recently. I don't know if I'm going to hit my goal of 50 books this year. Between having Sebastian, working, and then like having lost my mom that last month, I just kind of fell off the wagon of books. Not that I wanted to, life is crazy, and he makes it very hard to just sit down and read. But we're making do. I don't even know if I could pick out a favorite book from this list. I enjoyed a lot of them. They were good. Oh my goodness. We're gonna just end this because I cannot handle the sounds anymore. What's been your favorite book the last few months, or last month, or whatever? How are you doing on your reading goal, if you have one? I'd love to know. Let's chat and catch up. And I hope you guys have a great week. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!